been calling on your company like forever. We started off about 28 years ago doing nothing but natural stone, importing natural stone slabs of marble, granite, limestone, onyx. And then we did the tiles as well. And then maybe about 20 years ago, we started bringing in this product called quartz. We were the first Caesar stone distributor in this country. We've since moved on. I have Radiance as my quartz line now. But then about 6 years ago, this product called Neolith came on the market, and so we started with Neolith. And are you familiar with large format porcelain tiles? They're called. Okay. Well, I really shouldn't have used the word porcelain. They have a brand manual, and they say forbidden words, and one of the words is porcelain. It's not a porcelain, it's a sintered stone. But folks like you would know it more as a porcelain. It's kind of made a different way from porcelain, and I'll get into more of that in a minute, but you're going to see this term called sintered stone being battered about in the industry. And what's the sintered stone manufacturers are trying to distance themselves from the large format porcelain manufacturers because there is a difference. And I'll go into that in a minute here. Very informal, so questions, let me know. You guys have used this. We did a job in New York with McDonald's, and we sent some stuff there. We actually cut the pieces in our shop and sent them to New York. That was about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think. So up here is Chicago Children's Theater. Okay, these are the slabs of Neolith. They come in these huge, large slabs, which I'll get more exact in a minute. But Pepper Construction was the general contractor on this job, and Chuck Sutton was the project manager. And whenever he was awarded the job, he called me and said, "Hey, Tom, who do I send this out for bid?" And I said, "Chuck, it is so simple. Your own guys can put this up themselves." He did not believe me. He was at my office the next morning, 8 o'clock. To make a long story short, I rented him all the tools that he needed. So we have a table that we set up for him on the job site and got it level and has a little rail on it. So these panels were just scored and snapped right on the job site. And then they installed, and we rented them this spreader bar with suction cups. So the point is, these guys who had never heard of sintered stone or Neolith before 8 o'clock in the morning did these two huge walls at 100 South Racine themselves. They never broke a piece. Okay. The installation was done what we call a hidden chemical system. So it's very simple. You can see every 16 inches they put aluminum on the wall, and then they put some double-sided tape and some glue. The double-sided tape holds it for the first 24 hours. The glue takes 24 hours to cure. So these walls were put up for around $30 a square foot. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes. The joint. If you go to 100 South Racine and look at it, they left the joints a little bit big for me. They're about a half of an inch. I think they could have done like a quarter of an inch, for what they were doing. But they'd never worked with it before. So. But it looks good. It looks good. So is there a release handle at the bottom or something to carry it, or is it just the adhesive? Just the adhesive. Okay. The test results for this kind of system is actually better than a lot of your mechanically fastened systems. Okay. And we're in this country. In this country, everybody freaks out when I say, "Well, you're just going to glue it to the wall." They've been doing that in Europe and Asia and all over the world forever. So, but if you're not comfortable with it, I'll go to another system here in just a second. But we've also done, okay, so that's been up for about 5 years now. This has been up here for about maybe 7 years. Again, this is a house on Lake Michigan in St. Joseph, Michigan. So they just put some Z channel here and then just a piece of wood next to it. And on the piece of wood, they put their double-sided tape, and then the Z channel, they put their bead of glue. You want to make sure that the Z channel of the aluminum is very clean. There's a little cleaner you clean right before you put that up there. But again, it's a very, very simple installation. That project there was about $30 a square foot. There was 99 slabs, and we had all those cut to at the factory. They were all rectified to the same size. They were like 56 inches by 125.98 inches. So they're all the same size. So the guy that put it up, he would cut around the windows and the garage door and things like that. You can kind of see here, it's got like a wood grain that flows through it that you don't really see in the small samples in the sample book over here. Just another interesting note, I was at this job site talking to the builder, and there's another house, he didn't build it, but it's like cat a corner from this house. And they built it too close to Lake Michigan. So they have to move it 67 feet. It cost $1 million to move it. The whole house. It had a basement. He said they set it up, and it took them about 2 months, and they were literally moving it 3 inches at a time, go back, reset everything, pull it 3 inches. And that was, like I said, about 5 years ago. And with the lake rising so much, I wonder what's happening now to that house. But water was getting into the house way back then during storms. So that was installed for around $30 a square foot. La Quinta Inns, I put this in here because La Quinta Inns is certainly not like a Four Seasons. So all of the new La Quinta Inns are putting neolith on the side of their buildings. And what they're using to do that is what neolith calls the strong fix system. So what we do at the factory, we make the panels to whatever size you want, cut these grooves in there, attach this aluminum in there, and then in the same container that we ship those, we ship this aluminum here. So it all arrives, and matter of fact, right now, today, they are installing, our governor, Mr. Pritzker, is building a house in Bandon, Oregon, and they're installing today. They started about last week. So, and he's using this system here. You're going up in price a little bit for this system now. You're probably starting around $45 a square foot installed. And those just clip together, very easy. We did McClurg Court downtown. It's a high-end office or a condominium building. So you can see here you have neolith that runs the length from the floor to the ceiling. And the neolith I'll show you in a few minutes here, it has no maintenance to it. So they have pretty much a maintenance-free wall for the rest of the life of the product. We also did one of the Denver Nuggets, built a house up in the mountains in Colorado. Took 2 containers of neolith, and that's a lot because you can get so much in a container. And the whole house, the floors, the walls, the outdoor kitchen, the indoor kitchen, everything was all neolith. So this guy has like a maintenance-free house for the rest of his life. Now I will start the official presentation. So again, very informal. Stop me with any questions you might have. But you're going to talk about the different types of sintered compact surfaces. We'll talk about the performance, the applications, and of course the selection. The first thing is, all right, I said we're not a porcelain, we're a sintered stone. So everybody's like, what is a sintered stone? Sintering is a manufacturing process. It's very common in the ceramics industry, but it's where you take your raw ingredients, you pulverize them, you press them, and then you put them in the kiln, and that's where the sintering process begins. And this is what separates this product from a porcelain. The sintering process starts, the kiln is up to about 2,300 degrees, and it starts at that temperature. So what we're doing is we're taking our raw ingredients, we pulverize them, and we press them at about 15,000 psi, and it goes into the kiln. The sintering process starts. It takes all of those raw ingredients and it starts to melt them. So they all melt together and become one ingredient. They're in the kiln for about 2 hours and 45 minutes. A porcelain is in the kiln for about 30 to 40 minutes. This kiln gets to, like I said, 2,300 degrees. The porcelain, you're at about 1,200 to 1,400 degrees. And, like for a lot shorter time. So it's a different, this is a bit harder than most porcelains, more stain resistant. Not that porcelain has a staining issue, but this has pretty much a zero absorption rate. So it's the same absorption rate as glass. So to stain it, good luck. I have a piece of material here. I put some spray paint on it. I'll take it off that quick. Whenever we did the Chicago Children's Theater, the architects there did their own spray paint test because it's not in the best area. They're worried about graffiti. So what's it made of? All the ingredients, everybody has a onyx frog in front of you. So my material is as natural as your onyx frog. So they take granite, minerals, quartz, and feldspar, silica, which is basically sand, kale and clay, and natural pigments for color. So now, because we use natural pigments for color, they've done buildings in Qatar, they've done buildings in Canada, so from the desert to very cold areas, never an issue with the absorption rate or anything like that. So they've also passed the 30-year accelerated UV test. These factories that produce this kind of material are just huge, huge. So if you ever get to Castellón, Spain, they love to have you. All you got to do is get there. They pick up your food, your booze, your hotel, take you on all these tours and stuff. It's a fun time. But I tell everybody, if you're in the factory and you bop your head and knock yourself out, they may never find you because there's nobody. You'll walk for 4 blocks and not see a person. It's all done. There's forklifts going everywhere, but it's all done with GPS, no drivers. They have more people, working in quality control than they do in the actual factory. It really is. It's something like out of a James Bond movie. If you ever get a chance, you got to go. It's unbelievable. It's right by the beach. It's a very nice area. You'll love it. This is a bit dated here, but they make the slabs are actually they're up to like 63 inches now on some of them, and they make they're making slabs now that are an eighth of an inch thin. So probably today again they're installing this color right here in Tennessee, 4-foot by 10-foot panels on the wall, an eighth of an inch thin. Okay, that's unbelievable. So unbelievable. That's the first time I ever supplied anything that thin and that big. So we had a technician from Nela stay at the job site for the first couple of days, and the contractor was very good. he wanted to make sure he had all the proper tools and everything and was trained. So job's gone off without a hitch. But 4 foot by 10 foot by 1/8 of an inch thin. That's unbelievable. So that's on the interior walls. The interior floors are the same material, a little bit bigger. They're more like 5 feet by 10 feet, 1/4 of an inch thick. Unbelievable what we're doing now. But everybody's saying, the architect that did this job, she's from Chicago here. She says, Tom, I don't like grout joints. What can I do? I said, no, this is your answer here. She goes, I got to get the price down. What can I do? Let's do 1/8 of an inch on the walls. We don't sell much 1/8 of an inch thickness in that large of a format in this country here. But at our distributor meetings, they kind of shame us, us being the whole United States, for not warming up to the really thin material. In other countries, they use it a lot more than we do here. We have 3 different finishes. They have a silk, they have a gentle touch, a satin finish. Let's just say all of those are just not polished, okay? And there's such a slight difference between each of them. I don't know why they even have more than one. Then they have a river washed, which is like a little bit of a texture to it. And then the polished, this is very interesting. So whenever they make like this Calcutta looking material, they make the slab first, and then they put feldspar on it, put it back in the kiln, and when it comes out, they polish it. So that polish on about 6 of their colors is actually glass. Okay. So for that reason, they have you sign a little waiver saying, hey, I know this is not near as durable as the other stuff. We also supplied State and Huron here in Chicago, exterior cladding. They use the Arctic white, so the whitest white, polished. You go to that building at nighttime, because it's glass, the lights just dance off of the building. It's a very attractive building at nighttime. So they have that, call that decor polish. Then they have nanotech polish. Now they're just polishing it. They make the slab and just polish the slab. But on the Calcutta, the Statuario, those kind of colors, it's actually glass on there. And the reason they do that, I should tell you, let's say, for example, we had a huge slab or a huge table by that window there. And let's say the sun comes in there every morning. If it was a granite slab or if it was polished any other way, you'd be able to see waves on that material. Okay, this eliminates that. That gives you a perfect polish. I'm having a wardrobe malfunction. Okay, so why would you want to use it? Well, it's very scratch and abrasion resistant. Like I mentioned, this material, when the sintering process makes it so hard that if you have a booth next to us at any of the trade shows, you're really sick of us by the end, because we sit there and do that all day long. Okay, so it won't scratch. We did a job for Cece's Pizza, and they used the Statuario, the white with the gray vein. So the owners get on the website, and of course it says all spills should be cleaned up immediately. So they freaked out. So I took a piece home with me, a 12 by 12. I stopped and got some pizza sauce at Jewel. I got home and I videotaped myself. I put the pizza sauce on there, the barbecue sauce, red wine because it was Friday night, yellow mustard, ketchup, Frank's Red Hot, whatever I had in the house. Put it in the oven and baked it at 350 for an hour, which is a silly mistake. Don't ever do it. Because when it came out, everything was burnt on there really bad. And it took me about a half hour with a razor blade just to scrape everything off, and about another half hour to clean everything off. But the point is, I got everything off. we've done fabrication seminars, and we'll give the guys a white tile and we give them a framing square, and we say, here, try to scratch it, and they are doing this, and they go, no, really, try to scratch it. So then they're leaving metal marks in the white, which we can get out. Okay, it really, the absorption rate is that similar to glass. This guy will dull his knife before he ruins the needle. It's heat and fire resistant. Remember, I said it's fired in a kiln close to 2,300 degrees. Stain resistant. I tell people, okay, take the white, pour red wine on it, go on vacation, come back, it's going to clean right up. Freeze thaw won't affect it at all. It's got the NSF certification for food preparation. Easy to clean. It's got the UV resistance. And it's a very green product. They're up to about 52% pre-consumer recycled content in every color. Their goal is to get to 57. They'll be there probably by the end of this year. And then, of course, at the end of the job, it's 100% recyclable because there's no gas, no oils, no chemicals, no resins, no polymers in it. It's just as natural as a piece of dirt. It's got the Green Guard certification, the Green Guard Gold certification, European Commission certification. It's great for LEED Point. It's a member of the U.S. Green Building Council, the NSF, of course. This is a good and a bad picture here. It's good in the way that it's showing you, hey, don't be afraid to put a full tile on the floor. And at our tile installation seminars, that's what we do. We take a full slab and we put it, usually the Calcutta or the Statuario here, then we put it there, one next to it, and we book match them. These all come book matched. The Statuarios and the Calcuttas are all book matched. But what they're showing you here is you can put a full slab on the floor. We actually did, one of the owners of Groupon saw this picture here and used the exact color in this, and the whole first floor of their house is full slabs on the floor. We tried to get in there to photograph it, but he said yes, but she said no. So anyhow, what I've learned here is this is very incorrect, okay? What they should have done in this photo, all of this thin set should be raked the same way, short side to short side, okay? And then you need to back butter these slabs too. Again, short side to short side. These voids here are a big no-no, okay? So you should not have any voids, and then you put it down. And then it's actually kind of, the specs are actually this, okay? So I get it down, and then I'm the installer, I step onto the middle of the slab, and they do baby steps. You go down to the end, then you go back to the other end, and then you go to the edge, and when you get to the edge, you'll see your excess thin set come out. And that's the proper way to install it. So no voids, nothing in there. I was at a job downtown, not a job, it was like a showroom, talking about my stuff, and they already had some other stuff installed, and you could tap it and you could hear the hollow points. Then they took me to an area where it just caved in, it just wasn't installed properly at all. No, it's only going to be as good as the substrate though. Okay, so they've done car dealerships with this. So if it's installed properly, it's not going to crack. Let's say this room here, I could put 1.25 inch thick granite on here, and if I get movement on my floor and I haven't put a membrane to protect that, it's going to crack 2-inch thick granite. Okay, you've all been in restaurants and you see that crack going right down. It's not, is all those tiles defective right here? No, it's cracked from underneath. So no, if it's installed properly, you're golden. Okay, and the union is now certifying all their new apprentices to install this kind of material. So. And then Neolith has, like this job in Tennessee. I was like scared, okay? But Neolith, they have a couple guys that just run the country, and that's all they do. They'll go to this job site for a couple days or here, wherever they're needed. That's what they do. And these guys are really good. I mean, they know everything. So, even these uh, long-standing tile contractors, they'll talk to them. They know more than they do. Very amazingly. The amount of training that Neolith gives these guys, it's unbelievable. So, in a lot of cases, maybe you don't have to tear out the existing. So again, let's say this was a limestone floor, and okay, nobody buys limestone anymore, and you don't like it, you want to get rid of it, but you've installed it correctly 20 years ago, so there's no cracks in the floor. So now I can just put down a bond coat, which is about a thick paint coat, and then thin set right over that. So you'll raise your floor about maybe 5/8 of an inch, leaving the existing, and same with your walls. You go right over the existing walls. This is a very inexpensive tool here. Um, suction cup, diamond wheel, score it, snap it, done. You have to have the right blade to cut it. We inventory the proper blades now. When we first got this product, we would send a slab out there, and here comes a phone call. Oh, this stuff is crap. I'm trying to cut it and it's chipping. Well, what blade are you using? The blade for my granite and my quartz. You got to use a porcelain blade when you cut this. A water jet works beautifully on this material. We have these that we rent out if the contractor doesn't have them. Miters, very easily. You can have an overhang. I like this here, care and maintenance, okay? Clean it, do what you want with it. I mean, there's no special, no secret handshake you need to know to clean it. I'll take the paint off of this piece here. This is just acetone here. It comes off that quick, it's gone. We've had fabricators take a torch to this material for over 5 minutes just to see what would happen. Nothing. It can be repaired. Um, so actually, there's two companies here in Chicago. So let's say you specify this, and 2 years later we get a call. We did an architectural firm use this in their own firm, and it's about 2 or 3 years after it was installed, she called me. She says, "Tom, I don't know what happened. We came in on Monday. There was gouges in the wall, and they chipped the neolith over here." I sent my guy down there. About 10 minutes, she couldn't even tell where the chip was at. Gone. Okay. So we're very, very good at repairing it. If the material has an Achilles heel, this is it here. Because on the beautiful colors, the Calcuttas, the Estatuario, today, this vein is only on the top. It doesn't go all the way through. Like on my quartz, of course, the vein goes all the way through, and on granite, of course, it goes all the way through. But on this material here, so whenever you miter something like this, your corners, you want to either round the corner or have an ease there. If you have a 90-degree here, it's going to chip very easily. So whenever you round that corner or put an ease there, you lose your vein on this particular color for about 1/16 to an eighth of an inch. They're really close to getting the vein to go all the way through. They can do it in the lab, but to mass produce it and be efficient and cost effective, they're just not there yet. But they're getting. This is a true miter, yes, yes. And I usually have a sample of a miter with me. I didn't bring it today, but yeah, no. Well, here's what we've done. When we first started with this product, a couple of us distributors all met in California just to do our own testing. And what we were doing is we were taking pieces and cutting them and leaving a 90-degree angle there. Then we had, it was actually a monkey wrench or a plumber's wrench, and we would tap it. Man, it chips very easy. Then we ease the edge or round the edge, tap it again. It's a 95% difference. Okay. I'm not saying it won't ever chip, but you need that ease or that rounded edge there to accept that blunt force. And same with granite. If you have a 90-degree, I sell a lot of granite and quartz. 90 degrees are just a no-no. That's why even on our granite countertops, we always ease the edge there. And same with quartz, it's always an eased or rounded edge at the top there. But chipping has not been an issue with this. I would know about it. We just don't. I get an occasional call, and yeah, something happened. But it's not a common problem. Okay, remember, I'm in the stone business. Okay, so if we can find Calcutta or a Statuario or whatever they're coming out with these days, that is in the real marble, that is this white with this crisp of the background, we have to charge a fortune for it. I mean, sometimes we're paying over $200 a square foot just for the raw material, and that's still in Italy. So if you're comparing, okay, the cost of this island in natural stone and this product is going to come in at about a third of the price. And it will look better. We're seeing a lot more thin countertops too. You know, we don't know. I'll show you. It's coming up in a minute, but it's a piece of furniture. And if you walk into our showroom today, we have a little top in there. So we mitered two sides out of the Calcutta or I think it's a Statuario. Then the other two sides we didn't. So we show you right there. Okay, this is going to come to the edge. Then this vein, it's a half-inch thick. Does not go down. And we're very upfront about it, and it sells. To me, it's not a deal breaker. It really hasn't been a deal breaker, but we don't hide from that. I don't want you guys screaming at me 6 months from now. You never told me that. But it's not that bad, and I'll show you a picture of it here. It's not like an eyesore. Yeah. The color goes all the way. Um, the color goes all the way through. There's always a little bit of a pattern. Okay, the pattern doesn't go through. So the color now goes all the way through, but just like the little modeling on top doesn't go all the way through. But here's how close they are. At the Kitchen and Bath Show was just in Vegas, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. They had 2 tabletops in there where the veining went all the way through. They were just showing us, look, we're really close to getting it to go. But we can do it in a small setting, but to put it and run it through production and have it come out right every time, they're just not there yet. But yeah, and like a lot of these other colors here, it's not an issue. Only in the Calcutta, Statuario, that kind of stuff. All of the Calcuttas and the statuarios, they all come book matched. And they make 3 books. This book here deals with kitchens. They have a book here that deals with exterior cladding. Then there's this book here that deals with floors and walls. But in the back of every book, and their website has it all too, you can see all the colors, the finishes, and the thickness and the size that it comes in. And then you can see the patterns, okay, the book matching, right? Typically, we only stock one. So we stock in the Calcutta, we stock this pattern here, CO1 and CO1R, which just means like the reverse of it, okay? They had in the Statuario, they were making so many patterns, they were killing us, okay? So we stocked the EO1 and the EO1R. 321 North Clark, the architect wanted pattern EO4, which we didn't stock. So they have a warehouse in Virginia. We pulled it out of Virginia, then we put some on a container and did the job. And then about, of course, halfway through the job, they discontinued that pattern. So they went to the EO5. It's elevator, so every floor can be different. So anyhow, that's how you can look at the pattern and see how it is. But just keep in mind, we don't stock them all, but they are stocked in Virginia. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but if I were doing this project in natural stone, it would cost a fortune. Okay, this material on the wall and on the floor is all 6mm thick. So everything in here, I'm just scoring and snapping all the straight lines. I think this house is one of the owners. And okay, just there's a lot of young people in here, but maybe do you guys remember Cream of Marfil marble? It's been how much Cream of Marfil marble sold in the world? Okay, well these 2 brothers own the quarry in Spain. Okay? So they own the Cream of Marfil marble, Rojo Alicante, Rojo Corralito, Imperador Light, Imperador Dark. So these guys are gazillionaires to start with. And then about 10 years ago, this group of investors went to them and said, "We want to buy you out, and this is what we're going to give you." They took it. So they're running around Spain, just gazillionaires, and then the recession hits. There's a little factory in Italy called Laminum, kind of similar to this product here. Well, they were buying some slabs of laminum and putting it on their cream of marfil, cutting their cream of marfil an eighth of an inch thick, and putting that laminum on there to make the cream of marfil stronger. Okay, so that's kind of how they got a hint of this kind of product. So the recession hits, and this company was called The Size at the time, and all they were doing were cladding buildings in Europe. They had no distributors like me out schlepping samples to companies like you. So the recession hits, all the orders stop, nothing. Okay, so the 2 brothers have all this cash. They go in, they buy the factory, they call it Neolith, and they say we're going to take it to the United States where it's never been shown. We're going to take it back to our old stone customers, which is us, because I can get 1 slab of this to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin next week if I need to. We have our own delivery trucks, of course. So that's kind of the story behind there. And then it gets worse or better. So this last summer, we get an email. They sold half of their company, right? And I heard $120 million. So it's a lot of money. So I tell everybody Jose Luis is one of the guys. There's 2 brothers, and Jose Luis is the one that I deal with. I always tell everybody that's the richest man I know personally. That I know him. This is an old apartment building that they reclad the existing exterior and made it look brand new. Large format tiles here on the walls. That's Neolith on the fireplace back there. Here's your furniture shop showing that the vein doesn't go all the way through. It doesn't look bad, but you can see the vein doesn't go through right there. If it were the other colors, it wouldn't be an issue. Okay, I'm kind of anal. Every time this slide comes up, I'm thinking, oh my God. Okay, the contractor that did this, I don't know if you can see it, but the joint here is white. He could have used grade grout in there and made it look like a seamless floor, and it would have cost him maybe 37 cents. Okay, but you can see how it's book matched there. It's just beautiful. Very high traffic, not an issue. The slip resistance tests on this are all very good. They're in the book here. Only one time they can apply extra slip resistance at the factory. I've only done it for one project, and it was here in Chicago. It was an architect's own house. You guys make way too much money, by the way, because this guy has a penthouse in the city. And on the exterior, he's got this huge patio, and he was really concerned about in the wintertime slipping and stuff, so we put it on that. But then it goes into the house, of course, and we didn't need it, of course, in the house. But there is an extra slip resistance, and it's like, I don't know, 45 cents a square foot or something like that. Then there's also something, while I'm thinking of it, called purity. Okay, so let's say you're doing, a lot of the companies that you deal with are very environmentally friendly. All right, so they do the exterior of their building, and it's about maybe 50 cents a square foot, and they can put this purity on there. And I have a little video. If anybody wants it, let me know. I'll send it to you. But essentially, what it does, it makes the building self-cleaning. Okay, the UV rays hit it during the time it starts to self-clean itself, and then whenever it rains, all the dirt falls to the ground. Okay, and it's very amazing. It's a maintenance-free exterior now. But Toyota uses it on all their billboards. A lot of the NASA uses it. Again, beautiful, beautiful work here. This Nordstrom here is actually, it's in Canada. So all these pieces were all put together in a factory and shipped. So all the miters were already done when it got to the job site. This is an indoor golf facility in South Korea. It's not curved. You can't thermoform this at all. But here's something interesting. I can take the 3 millimeter thickness and the 6 millimeter thickness, and you can bend it this way. Okay, it only bends one way. So a lot of times at their trade shows, they'll have curved walls in their booth, and it kind of freaks everybody out. It only goes this way. If you try to bend it this way, it'll snap. Okay, and we take care of all that in our training to the fabricators and stuff. But it only goes this way here.
How much can it curve?
I want to say they talk because I asked them, well, how many did you break here? And they're like, they looked at me like I was from Mars. Well, I didn't break any of them, I'll say it was like 6 or 7 inches per slab. Okay, but I can take when we first started with this guy came to our warehouse and we pulled out a quarter-inch thick 6 millimeter slab. He takes it and he's like shaking it like a rug. It would only bend one way, but he was like shaking it. It's kind of different. It all comes with mesh on the back, which help, and that's what only goes one way. The mesh only goes one way. Anything else? Just the same as you would for, no, eighth of an inch is only for interior walls. So all the buildings that I showed you that were clad, those were all 6 millimeter or a quarter of an inch. But what they're starting to say now is like, look, let's do the first floor in 12 millimeter or half of an inch thickness because the snow blowers were running up against it and chipping it. Okay, so they're kind of recommending for the first floor in climates like this, maybe we should use 12 millimeter just on the ground floor and then 6 millimeter from there on after that. So all your interior walls, your uh, interior floors, all 6 millimeter or a quarter of an inch. They make a half inch thick for countertops, and now they make a 3/4 inch thick for countertops. Other than that's the only time you'd want to use it, that thickness, unless you wanted it thicker. But that's kind of where they're at.
For the miter edges,
Mhm.
especially on the thin material, they
Mhm.
shop fabricate that for light, or they
No,
do that to field.
no. And there's one of our first projects we did with this was a company called Jones Day Law Firm in Cleveland, Ohio. And the fabricator that got the job, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. He didn't know what he was doing. And his miters were just hideous. So then we said, okay, time out. So we pulled back. And now, if you specify something that has a miter on it, when they go to order the material, I can tell if that fabricator's or that installer's been certified. I'll offer to go and certify him at my expense. We have a guy that's pretty much his full-time job now, and he has to make a miter for us to become certified. Okay, if he's not certified, then we say, okay, no warranty. Okay, right on the order. Okay, because if someone doesn't cost them anything, but really about maybe an hour of their shop time. I mean, it's not like we're reinventing the wheel here. And this type of material, like a porcelain type, has been around forever. You can miter porcelain very easy. Kind of the same thing here. If you have the right tools, it's not an issue. So, but I do tell everybody, I'll give them the material to make a miter for you so you can bless it and say, yeah, that's good. But well, I've seen some nasty miters here. We did a job in a showroom in Grand Rapids, and we gave them the slab, so they have to put your nameplate on there. I walked in there, and I did not even put my nameplate on this. I don't want to be associated with it because the fabricator had butchered it. But I'm going back 6 or 7 years ago. Today, everybody's gotten more used to working with it, and things, have changed a lot. It's gotten a lot better for everybody. There's a lot of these sintered stones coming out into the marketplace. At KBIS, my God, every other booth was something similar to this. It's just unbelievable. So my point is, it's coming to you. They're going to ram it down your throat. It's kind of when quartz first came out. I mentioned we were the first Caesarstone distributor in this country. Okay, our first year, we didn't sell 20 slabs. I mean, I sell 20 slabs before noon right now. We couldn't give it away. And kind of the same thing when we started with this. Oh, what's that? We're not going to deal with that. Well, now there's so many players, companies making this kind of material, and they're running 24/7. They're going to inundate you with this kind of material, and the cost is going just like quartz. It never went up; it started going down. And this cost, and it's not expensive right now, but it's going to get even more affordable, I would say. Let's go by the square foot, okay? Um, let's say in the 6 millimeter thickness for the raw slab, I could give you, if you gave me a budget of $15 a square foot, you could have probably 90%, 95% of the line. The Calcuttas and the statuaries go up a little bit from there. The most expensive thing I have is 3/4 inch Calcutta polished is like $39 a square foot for the raw slab. Now let's compare it to the marble, the real marble. You're not touching that stuff for under $60. So I'm pretty much half the price of the real thing. And I'm not bad mouthing the real thing. I sell a lot of that too. I just want to tell you this is kind of where you're at. And I'll send you my price list. I have no problem doing that. I just sent it out before I got here. Somebody was asking. I just sent them the whole price list. I hate secrets. Okay. So here's the main difference. Okay. If you, and I've been in shops here with large format porcelain, and the slabs are like warped so bad they can't even use them. And in one shop, they put a 1/4 inch hardy backer board. They glued it to the back of the slab, thinking that would stop it from working. It didn't work at all. Okay. If you were to, let's say, we're doing this floor in here, and you go out and you buy some 6-inch by 48-inch porcelain tiles. Okay. When you open that box, the instructors are going to say, hey, you got to stagger the joints. Okay. If you put them like this, you know why? Because it's so warped. You put those four corners together, you're going to trip on it. So that's kind of one of the biggest difference between this and porcelain. Okay, we don't have warping issues with this material at all. It is under stress though. So uh, in the thicker thicknesses, the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch, what the fabricator has to do is the first thing he does, he cuts 1 inch off of this long side. Okay, and then when he cuts that off, that will come off and it might be bowed a bit. Okay, then he takes 1 inch off of this side. It's going to be less bowed. Then he takes 1 inch here, 1 inch here. What he's left with is what we charge him for. Okay, so a little bit of a tension here, and it's not uncommon for quartz slabs to have the same issues. Okay, a lot of tension in the quartz slabs. I won't get into it, but there was some quartz you'd be cutting in here, and it would be splitting at the other end of the table, and it's just the stress in the slab. So it's not uncommon to get stress in here, but we don't have any warping issues that you would get in your larger format porcelain. It's because of the sintering process. Okay, again, this is in the kiln for, like I said, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and then when it gets out of the kiln, it sets for another hour, and especially a room that has a special temperature and just sits there. Okay, the quartz, when we buy a quartz, okay, they produce it. Again, they let it sit there for 30 days in their warehouse before they ship it. Okay, and I can tell if they ship it or too soon, it'll have warping in it. Okay, but the warping, even in a quartz, it's not the end of the world. Okay, you can push it down, clamp it, and glue it, and you'll be fine. Your fabricators have never had to tear out a warped slab. It's either warped so much that they can't use it at all, and they go to something else. But once it's installed and you're golden, you're not going to have that issue. Even stone. We used to get some stone from Brazil, and this stuff was really, really hard, and it was warped. I forget, it was like a blood red color. We don't carry it anymore just for that reason. But it was, God, you look at those slabs, and there's a curve in them. Keep in mind, I do natural stone still. Then I do the Radiance quartz. It's a very good line. It's all made on Breton machinery. Breton is the best machinery to make quartz. They're so proud of their machines that if you invest, I think they're up to close to $22 million for one production line. Let's say you're in Australia and you buy their production line, they'll say, okay, we won't sell to anybody else for like 10 years within 15,000 miles from you. Okay, they're really proud of that. So Breton does make the best machine to make quartz, and that's what makes my Radiance here. You guys still use much natural stone? Yeah. I still do natural stone. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's I see. And I tell you, between us and Neolith, we won't let somebody do a job unless they've been fully trained. Okay, and I mean we don't have any failures here in town. Nobody's saying look at this or that. We don't. So. Neolith, remember, they're very well funded, so they put out the money for the trainers and send them wherever they need to go. And they train them in Spain. I mean, these guys, they don't just kind of know their business, they know their business. Okay, they're very, very talented people. No, they could, if it depends on the quality of the installer, okay? But typically what they'll do is they'll do a 45-degree cut on the two pieces, put them together, and then glue it, and then grind that off. And so if the contractor has a steady hand, he could do it in the field. Yeah, it doesn't have to be done in a shop. Yes, it would. But again, I would say, okay, show me a sample of your miter. I want to know what it's going to look like on my project here. Okay, and I'll give him, it might not be the same color, but I'll give him some. He can make a miter for you. And then, you hold him to that. And, 5 years ago, that was kind of an issue. And a lot of the fabricators were like, oh, I'm not touching that stuff. But now, it's becoming more and more popular every day. So they're starting, and I can help you too. If you say, hey, I got this specified over here, I'll give you 4 or 5 names. Call this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. They're all qualified and they can do your job. And I can give you union guys, non-union guys, whatever you want. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know time is a premium these days. I'll make sure they're all in your library now. I'll make sure they're all updated. And go from there. Thank you again. I appreciate it.